Hi everyone, Dr. David Alter here. Welcome to 2017 as we kick off the year with our first monthly video newsletter. This month's theme is all about new beginnings. How do we get started not only with the new year, which frankly happens just because the calendar turns over from December to January, but more importantly, how do we put into practice the steps that can help us fulfill resolutions, create new beginnings, move ourselves a step or two closer on the path to being our best selves, our healthiest selves, and ultimately our most authentic selves. In this month's newsletter, I'll go over 5 steps that I found are really important when we seek to make a habit change, to create a new beginning in some aspect of ourselves and our lives. For my clients, that can be finding a way to lighten depression, or maybe it's about a new beginning related to anxiety, panic, or insomnia. For still others, it may be a way of reducing the pain of migraine or the distress of a gastrointestinal disorder like irritable bowel syndrome. Maybe it's a new beginning in a relationship that seems to have lost its promise, leaving you feeling low and down and despairing. New beginnings are important not just in January, they're important every day, and I'll be talking with you about 5 steps I found important to help us put into practice effective steps to make the kind of changes that we want to make. The video newsletter will also contain a set of simple, hip pocket kind of messages that are really helpful for you to keep in mind as you go through the steps this next month to put your new beginnings into practice. I'll be talking with you about a couple of blogs that I wrote in January that have to do with this month's theme about creating new beginnings. So I'll direct you to those. And then I'll do what I usually do, which is orient you to 3 particular research articles that I found to be really useful and maybe intriguing as they point out different elements, different aspects of what it means to be skilled enough to start over, to start new, to create a new possibility. And then this month I'm also going to be introducing a new feature, something I call a Wise Mind Minute. A short, reflective poem or reading or idea that you may want to journal on, you may want to simply listen to several times to help it connect more deeply as you think about how to apply the message in your life. See what you think. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's begin to talk about the 5 steps that I have found are really key to being able to make new beginnings. The first of those 5 involves goal setting. It seems obvious, doesn't it? But you'd be surprised how many of the people that I see each day define their goal primarily in terms of what they don't want, rather than their ability to imagine and create a sense of what it is that they do want. So the big picture goal is not just, I don't want to be depressed. It's that I want to be able to create, let's say, an optimistic or hopeful attitude about this particular issue in my day-to-day life. Or it's not being able to avoid insomnia. It's the goal of being able to sleep 6 or 7 hours in a row without being awakened and lying at the ceiling counting the ceiling tiles. But goal setting is not just about this idea of creating a good picture of where you want to end up, that big picture goal. It's also about being able to identify what are the key first steps that you can take to put that goal into practice. If we say, for example, I want to go to Los Angeles, Well, I could go by train, I could go by plane, I suppose I could walk or go by bicycle. Those take the big goal and drop them down to the step I need to take that is going to increase the odds that I can actually achieve that goal. That's really important when it comes to overcoming patterns that have become really ingrained in your life. When we start making that commitment to start anew, we need both levels of that goal setting. The big picture goal to start to visualize what it is that you want to see different in your life in the future, and then also the small step. What are the first few things you're going to put in place that start to orient you toward a new path forward? One way that I do that with my clients is to actually help them visualize some point in the future where that goal has actually been achieved. Have them sit with that. Let them marinate in that idea that the goal that they've been seeking is finally at hand. They've achieved it. They've done it. And then I'll ask them to begin to look around to identify what is it that's different in their life once that goal has been achieved. And then for me, the key question, and for many of my clients similarly a key element, is to have them begin to travel back in their minds from the point when the goal has been achieved all the way back to where they first began with that initial step to move toward that goal, and to picture in their mind's eye what was that first step. So they're looking forward to look backward to identify how they got started in making that goal turn into a reality. You may want to practice that as well. The second of the 5 steps involves the idea of course corrections. There's no way that the path from where you are today to where you want to be in the future is going to end up being a straight line. There'll be external things that derail you, and there'll be distractions that you get seduced by that will lead you down a detour that's normal and natural. Ask anybody who's a beginning meditator, or an experienced meditator for that matter. When we say, okay, I'm going to commit to meditating, we may have this false idea that we'll be able to stay focused in a laser-like way. The reality is, within seconds, you may find that your mind is wandering off on some detour, and the course correction and the mental training that helps us make new beginnings a reality in our lives is that we come back over and over again. We make these course corrections to keep us on the path toward fulfillment of our goal. The third of the 5 steps involves the ability to accept failure. All of us are imperfect. All of us are flawed. All of us, in spite of our best intentions, are going to fall short. In my tradition, on the holiest day of the year, we begin that day's service with a pronouncement that all of our promises and commitments and hopes that we had made a year ago to be a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better psychologist, a number of them have fallen short. In other words, we have failed. Well, what a way to begin the day. But in a sense, I think it's the perfect way to begin the day. It acknowledges our fundamental humanity, that there's this big gap between who we aspire to be and how we're able to be that person. When we learn to see those failings with a gentle eye, maybe even a loving and accepting eye, you'd be surprised at how much more effective it is to then take a step or 2 or 3 forward, so that next year you may still not have been completely perfected. I can almost guarantee that's not going to happen, but you will have taken steps forward. You will have created some new beginnings and some important changes in your life. The fourth of the 5 steps is this idea of returning. many times when we talk about wanting to make a new beginning, we have this false notion that we'll be able to eliminate any of the old themes or habits or issues that we've dealt with over the course of our lives. After 30-some years in this office and many more decades in my personal life, I found that there are certain themes that just keep showing up over and over and over in my life. It frustrates me. It frustrates my clients. But the reality is, those themes are constant opportunities to visit anew how are we going to deal with that recurring theme now. Am I going to be short-tempered in the old way, or am I going to learn to manage that temper differently? But I won't be free of that challenge to regulate my temper. Will I be able to be patient with things that frustrate me? Or will I continue to be overly reactive? So the idea of returning when it comes to making new beginnings is to really wrestle with this idea and learn to accept the idea that when that old theme shows up yet again, to treat it as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about yourself and to exercise the power to choose how you relate to that theme so that this time you can do it in a way that is a little bit more enlightened, you might say, a little bit kinder, perhaps a little bit more generous or loving. The theme is there, but your response to the theme might have changed. Finally, I came up with a 3-letter acronym, POP, P-O-P. If you want to make 2017 a year of new beginnings, if you want January to be the month where that kicks off, you need to bring a certain kind of pop to your effort. The first P involves passion. If you're going to do this, you need to be able to do it with a sense of passion, with energy, with a certain kind of intense emotion that helps you get out of the rut of past habits and puts you on the path to doing what it is that you've set out to do. It's also important to have some degree of faith or hope, or what I call optimism. That's the second letter, P-O. Optimism that if you put in the effort, there's a much better chance that you're going to reach the result that you set out for, even if past efforts have failed. If you combine the other steps that we've talked about here, healthy, effective, focused goal setting, and some of the other elements I've talked about, passion and optimism can begin to get you there. The third letter is perseverance, because the bottom line is you're going to have days where you want to give up. And those are the days where you want to be able to simply put one foot in front of the other. Perseverance, persistence. So passion, optimism, and persistence or perseverance are the 3 final of the 5 steps that I have found in my work with my clients and my work with myself put me in the best position to keep developing, growing new habits, and taking more steps toward the person that I want to become. So let's go on to the next part of this month's newsletter. I want to orient you to 2 blogs that I wrote this last month. The first one is titled Timeless Medicine. And the medicine that I'm talking about are the steps that you can take to really wake up to the possibilities that are all around you in your life, to connect to having the power to choose. One of the most difficult things I hear from my clients day in and day out is the sense that they are victims of their circumstances. They don't feel they're in a position to make choices that are going to matter. So the first blog is about how you can connect to the power to choose that you already have, and to use that power as part of a timeless medicine to help you make the changes that you want to make. The second blog I call Building a Brave New Brain in a Brave New World. I have had so many people come in over the course of the last month really feeling put off their game, destabilized, sleep difficulties, a vague sense of depression, or a generalized sense of anxiety, because the world that we seem to be entering into in 2017 looks so different than what any of them thought it could ever look like. So the blog talks about what are the key steps that helps you to build a resilient new brain, and with that brain to be able to face this uncertain new world we're entering into with a feeling of being grounded, connected, and empowered to go forward as the kind of person you want to be, dealing with things in your life in a way that helps you feel effective and empowered. I also want to point you to 3 different research articles that I found that I think each contain a little different element that's important when it comes to this theme of how do we begin anew, how do we create new beginnings. The first article that I think you'll enjoy is about the importance of playfulness. People who are more playful have 2 really important abilities that helps them deal with new beginnings more effectively. Playful people tend to be much more mentally flexible. They can see things in new and different ways, and that opens up new avenues that may be blocked to people who are more rigid or more locked into ways of thinking that don't have that energy of playfulness. And the second thing that playfulness confers upon people is the ability to take routine, mundane, and frankly boring aspects of their day-to-day lives and to find a way of making them more enjoyable and more lively. When you combine those 2 elements, they're really important when it comes to making positive habit change. The second article comes from the New York Times, and it's about what is necessary to become a super ager. How do you become a super ager? Now, don't be put off by the title. It's not just for folks who are well on in their years. Super aging habits can begin at any time in life, and much of the research suggests that the earlier we start them, the more likely we're going to carry that super aging quality well into our later years. So check that article out. The third article that I share with you is about what it takes to stimulate an appetite to try new and different things. The willingness to be curious, creative, and a little bit of a risk taker when it comes to seeking things that are new and different is a really necessary skill when it comes to dealing differently with old habits as we try to turn the corner on those old habits and begin anew in this new year. Now, earlier I mentioned that this month I'm offering a new feature that I'm calling the Wise Mind Minute. It is going to involve a short poem or an idea or something that I will share with you that gives you an opportunity to reflect, to take the time to listen to the idea, to chew on it a little bit, and in a quiet, self-reflective place, see how it touches you, how you can draw on what I hope is the wisdom contained in this piece that I'll share with you each month to help put into practice what it is that we're seeking to help you do in that particular month. In January, the theme is new beginnings. How do we create them? How do we maintain them and sustain them? And what I want to share with you is a poem by Mark Nepo, N-E-P-O, from his book Reduced to Joy. The particular short poem I want to share with you is called Discernment. And I certainly found for myself when I came across it that the way he invites us in a particular path to go outside the usual routine and structure that we've created in our lives seems so key to me as a necessary element in being able to create something new, to have a new beginning. So I want to share it with you. Here it goes. The trouble with the mind is that it sees like a bird, but it walks like a man. And things at the surface move fast, needing to be gathered, while things at the center move slow, needing to be perceived. What I mean is, if you want to see the many birds, you can gather them in a cage and wonder why they won't fly. Or you can go to the wetlands, birding in silence before the sun comes up. It's the same with the things we love or think. We can frame them in pretty cages or follow them into the wild meadow till they stun us with the spread of their magnificent wings. For me, the key element is this idea of contrasting the way we assemble parts of our lives in these pretty gilded cages by having habits and routines that we carry out over and over again, always hoping that somehow we'll have a different outcome. When the reality is, if we really want to make a change, we have to do what Nepo suggests. We have to get out into the wild, into the unknown, outside the box, so to speak, and really explore things that may actually be uncomfortable, but necessary if we're going to successfully put a new set of habits, practices into effect as we move forward, seeking the personal change or personal transformation that we have embarked on here early in 2017. Take some time and listen to Nepo's words. I hope it touches you in a way similar to how it touches me, or maybe you'll find that it touches you in a completely different way. That's it for this month's video newsletter. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back at the end of February with the next edition. New theme, new topic, new ideas, and new tips to help you keep going. Until then, take care. I hope things go well for you. Bye-bye.